Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. What is going on, everybody? My name is Justin Fensterman. Happy holidays to all, and to all a good day. Let's get the winning going. Hope everybody is ready for a very hopefully easy weekend with friends, family, food, and of course your pal Fensty here on a Wednesday on Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by the good old FG, FantasyGuru.com. Become part of the Elite Mafia today. You can sign up at FantasyGuru.com. We've got a lot of packages to offer, including our all-in NFL plan. Let me tell you, for the remaining couple of weeks of the regular season of the NFL, along with playoffs, you could go all in. DFS, betting content, the remainder of season-long content now for a nice low price of $49.99, where you can sign up or email support@fantasyguru.com or go to fantasyguru.com and join us today, because not only are we going to cover what's going on in football, because we got a hell of a lot of injuries and injury impact to talk about around the NFL, but what happens after football? The winning doesn't have to end. It doesn't have to end at all. And that's where I come in on Wednesdays, because besides the football content that you're going to get, Rich Maletto, Fantasy Bosco, is going to stop by in just a little bit to preview Week 17 and talk about how much of a mess it is and what players that we can rely on, especially with some major news that recently came out. But I am going to be talking about this, what you see at the bottom of this screen, our MVP plan, which you can sign up even just $60 for a month to try it out. You get everything we have to offer: hockey, basketball, racing, MMA, PGA. You get everything we have to offer except for football and baseball. Basketball is hot right now. It's fun. Let's not forget that we've got 5 nationally televised. I say that every year, but now I say, is everything going to be on television, or is it going to be 5 games on 5 different streaming services? That's really what it's come to right there. But yes, tradition still lives here somewhat. 5 nationally televised games beginning at noon Eastern. And for those that rock with me when it comes to the basketball at the good old FG, I am going to have a slate write-up for DFS. It should be up this evening. I don't want to guarantee anything. I know it's holiday times, and our editors, our writers, our analysts, everybody is trying to get in a little bit of family time too. You know, yours truly, jet focused right here and locked in. So I will have that write-up, hopefully going to be up on the site by this evening, along with some bets trickling in tonight and into tomorrow morning. And then from 11 a.m. to noon Eastern, I will be in our Discord at fantasyguru.com. You can find me at Fensty, Fensty. Also on X and Instagram at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports. And I'll be covering the slate there too. And while I'm promoting my entire life, might as well promote this too. For those that have SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, SiriusXM Channel 87, SiriusXM in your car, maybe you got it as a holiday gift. I'll be on at 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern, talking football, talking basketball, having holiday fun with all of you before I head right into Discord and get everybody ready for the noon Eastern tip-off. So the reason why I say all this is because I know that the sun is setting on our NFL season, and certainly our fantasy football season, with most in their championships this week. There's still a chance to win. We are here. And let me tell you, while we're sitting there watching these players, some of them spit on each other, fan interactions with athletes, which, look, I could go and do an entire hour on how not to be an idiot at a sporting event. But I'll say this, while all that's going on, while you got the players spitting, you've got DK Metcalf getting himself suspended from the physical interaction with the fan. And beyond that, there's still good in this universe. And that's where we live when it comes to the NBA world, our content, making sure we're respectful of others. And I love the community we have at fantasyguru.com. And it's great to see everybody in the chat. Fantasy Arnold, who is your daddy? What does he do? Love it very much. Good to see you, Fantasy Arnold. Happy holidays to everybody. I'm going to try addressing all kinds of contests, focusing on Thursday for football and focusing on Thursday for basketball. And then I'll get into it just a little bit more. But let's talk a little bit about the NBA slate, because some of what we do at fantasyguru.com besides DFS NBA is also NBA betting. And with NBA betting, it's not the easiest, but it is a way to solve it. And there are ways and there are stats to track. Each week I've been going over a different stat here. I've gone over rebounds and assists. So I am going to start by talking about rebounds plus assist props and what we look for. Not specific props that we're going to bet on. No NBA tonight. It will be again tomorrow. It resumes. But where I look, what kind of research I do. That way, you know what? You sign up for the MVP plan that we have for $60 for a month. You make that $60 back. You sign up for a year for $200, and there you go. We're cooking with gas. But so you can know, for those that aren't part of Fantasy Guru, I not only put my bets up, but you see all of my analysis that goes with it. Every little inkling of evidence you see. I hide nothing. I don't hide bets. I don't hide plays. I want you to win. What's the point? Oh, if I'm in a multi, league entry or whatever am I in for DFS, I'm afraid that one of you is going to be in the same tournament as me, so I'm going to hide stuff from you. No, I know analysts that do that, and that's not a committed analyst to you, the subscriber, okay? We hide nothing at Fantasy Guru. When you win, we win. And here's how you win when it comes to rebounds plus assists. The first thing I look for is, because I can go into usage, and I'll start talking about that a little bit more, because these shows are going to become exclusively NBA shows starting in the middle of January. Once probably we're down to the conference championships in football, I'll talk a little bit of football, but then it's going to be a lot of NBA because we're mid-season during that point. But what I look for is what I look for with just about everything. DFS plays, props, pace produces possessions. So I look first for the season, but then I look in the last 10 games to see if any team is sped up or slowing down, because one of the teams that sped up a little bit, and it's a team you have to be careful attacking. Though they're a bit healthier now, we've seen them a bit more competitive. The New Orleans Pelicans have sped it up a ton. They play, and over the last 10 games, they've played at the fastest pace. Them, the Hawks, which are a good prime team to attack, where you can attack them on the glass. And also because they have a lot of depth, they're competitive. We can attack them. The Jazz, a team that you have to be careful of. The Bulls, we've been attacking and making money off of them all year long. Why? Bad interior defense and very quick-moving offense. The Oklahoma City Thunder, not a lot of teams are going to be successful against them. They're going to boat race a lot of teams. But I'll say this. For those decent teams out there going up against the Thunder, I'll still play plays if they're going to play this quickly. Earlier in the year, the Thunder were playing very slow. That's a team, greatest defense in the league, best defense in the league, and they play slow. That's a team that you really don't want to attack. But if they're playing quicker, okay, we'll at least get the pace boost there, and there's got to be a reason they're playing quicker, so the opposition is going to benefit a little bit more, because the Thunder have been playing at lightning speed. The Spurs have been playing at lightning speed. The Grizzlies and the Cavs have been up there. Portland's been up there. Who's not up there in that top 10 that Orlando rounds about? Again, this is in the last 10 games. The Miami Heat, a team that has been top 10 in pace all year, that we've been able to attack on the glass, all of a sudden starting to slow down just a little bit. It's one thing going from number 8 to number 11. It's quite another going from number 1 to number 13. And I say that because I cannot stand missing what should be a direct connect the dots bet. Scotty Barnes last night should have had 12 rebounds in that game against Miami. I put it up at 8.5. I debated putting up his rebounds plus assists, because going up against Miami, I don't care if you have both Ware and Adebayo in there. Going up against Miami, you're going to grab some rebounds. They give up a lot of rebounds to opponents. Scotty Barnes should have been a lock, even with the team at full strength. Let's say it went down to 7.5 if you had Barrett in there. But Jakob Poeltl was also out in that game. And that's where I thought, cha-ching, this guy's getting to 9. He was on pace the entire first half, and then he kind of fell flat at the end. We got hooked on that, and that is one of the biggest upsets when it comes to a prop of missing. And I can't stand that because I'm sitting there wondering, 8.5, a decent line. What am I missing, right? What am I missing? But I'm not letting the odds dictate my mentals necessarily. I'm not. Because if I see something going over, it's going to go over. I love it. Him without Jakob Poeltl in the lineup, more rebounding chances. You see about a 2% bump for Scotty Barnes, and he didn't come through because of Colin Murray Boyles, who doesn't even want to be there. One of the least enthusiastic reactions to getting drafted by a professional sports team I've ever seen. This guy's grabbing every rebound under the sun. Now, Sandro Mamu, I call him Sandro Mamu Kelashvili, he is someone that we see get more minutes, and he was in the write-up last night, by the way, when Jakob Poeltl is out. Okay, that's fine. But seeing Scotty Barnes not get to 9 is a big-time upset, almost as big of an upset as Cam Spencer not really taking a shot, taking 2 shots the entire first half, putting us behind the 8 ball on that prop. See, that's NBA betting. Even when you get, for me, the multiple pieces of evidence, because I look for at least 3, a good rule of 3. But because I'm an overachiever, I try to look for 5 ends to see where we have an edge. That's what I look for because I care about every damn bet that I put up there. And coming off a 1-2 night where looking at the pace of play, we should have been at least 2-1. If anything, Ryan Rollins is the example, and that's who I'm getting to here. Ryan Rollins had a 7.5 rebounds plus assist prop. So last night, the Milwaukee Bucks were going up against the Indiana Pacers. Indiana has been a team all year that we've attacked on the glass. Why? They're the worst shooting team in the NBA. The worst shooting team in the NBA. We want teams that are going to miss. Why? And I don't even have to look at opponent field goal percentage for that. I just want to see how the team shoots no matter what they play, who they play. And they're at the bottom of the list. They've been at the bottom of the list most of the year. So that's why for someone like me, I see Indiana and I immediately want to attack them. It's very hard for me to find a team I won't attack Indiana with. Now, Indiana isn't the same Indiana team as last year. They don't play nearly as fast as they did last year. They don't shoot well. Last year, they were a 50% shooting team. This year, they're at the bottom of the league. And yeah, they're missing Halliburton. They're missing guys like Nesmith. They're missing forwards that can help them with inside play, which they really haven't had too many impactful players inside. Isaiah Jackson has been meh. You know, that's really what it comes down to for him. And when it comes to this Pacers front court, it's a lot of Pascal Siakam who soaks up those shots. So attacking them on the other side, Ryan Rollins is someone who I'd seen grab 3 to 4 rebounds a lot. And I almost wrote up his rebound prop at 3.5 because the Pacers give up a ton of rebounds to guards, and they have the entire season. And we know that Rollins is going to have a big role off the bench. I love it that he's not sharing the court with Kevin Porter the entire game because then they'd be splitting hairs when it comes to rebounds and assists. But Rollins is someone that we're going to look at because when I see, and this is where I bring in the rebounding chances, when I see him and his rebounding chances in the last 6-7 games go from averaging 6 to all of a sudden averaging 7 or 8, if I look in the last 3-4 games, then I know it's a little bit safer, plus the matchup at hand. But I also knew that Rollins has a big-time usage when he's out there. He runs the offense for the Bucks' second unit. And let's also not forget, this team is very different on the usage chart when Giannis Antetokounmpo is in. He's been out, though. So it's been pretty much this backcourt that's been trying to carry this team and Bobby Portis. Miles Turner has been That's really what it's been. So it's been the backcourt and Bobby Portis that is needed to carry this offense at this point. So looking at Christmas a little bit, let me do that. So that's a little bit of what I'm looking for. I look up the potentials. I look up the pace. And I love the low 7.5, 8.5 kind of lines for guys that have a 18 to 20% usage rate, because they're going to be spending a lot of time with the ball, ups their assist chances, and going up against a team that isn't the best defensively and certainly isn't a good shooting team. We're going to be able to continue to attack Indiana all year long on the glass. Let's spend a few minutes talking about what we've got cooking for the 5-game slate, because Cleveland, New York, we're awaiting some injury news there, but the pace is going to heavily favor the Knicks in that one. And with no OG Anunoby, we should see, well, there won't be Evan Mobley and OG Anunoby. If he's out, that'll make things a little bit easier for Donovan Mitchell to get free. Although Mikal Bridges will be on him and Josh Hart will be switching on him too and won't make it easy. And the Knicks play at a very slow pace. They play at a they're a good defensive team. So we got to be careful with what members of Cleveland that we use. But right now, as it stands, we can look at someone like Darius Garland, because I've mentioned this before, but while the Knicks have a bunch of really strong defensive players, Jalen Brunson actually really isn't one of them. And I feel like, if anything, we'll be able to attack the Knicks because the best defender will naturally be on Donovan Mitchell. So Darius Garland becomes very interesting in this game. And Garland's coming off a poor game too, but we know the assists are there. So the scoring and the assists are there for him. We'll see him play about 30 minutes. And I think that's Cleveland's best chance tomorrow of beating the Knicks. We didn't see them when they previously met. We didn't see Darius Garland, but Darius Garland should be looking at double-digit shots in this game. The salary, not really mouth-watering appealing, but I feel like he's the safest. And then after that, I mean, Jared Allen is going to get eaten alive by Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns, for that matter. So we'll have to see. Now, if Jalen Brunson sits, somebody that we actually were able to rely on last night, and I'll just say this, the core four last night, I'm not a huge flexer. I'm just actually very happy about this. I haven't had a core that smashed, a core four that smashed that hard, all four players, in a long time. I had Tyler Kolek in there, who, when Jalen Brunson is out along with Miles McBride, all of a sudden we see his role grow. Musa Diabate is a solid backup center, and I know that Ryan Kalkbrenner has been a little bit banged up for Charlotte, so he came in against Washington because everyone beats Washington, and he was able to dominate them. He had like a double-double by the first half. And then that Hawks-Bulls game that I attacked, which I loved. A lot of people get a little superstitious that, well, they just played. Neither team plays good enough defense to be able to adjust, and the players that could help them adjust were out, at least for Atlanta. Dyson Daniels, Kristaps Porzingis. So you got to see open season with a lot of those Atlanta Hawks. And you got to see what Trae Young can do. You got to see as well what Josh Giddey can do, and Jalen Johnson. And we had Jalen Johnson and Josh Giddey, both of them sub 10K in that core. I was thrilled because of that last night. But getting back to this slate, so that's where I'm looking when it comes to the Knicks in Cleveland. I'll look at Josh Hart a little bit. If OG Anunoby is out, I'll look at Josh Hart, and I'll look at Darius Garland, and we'll have to see what the deal is with Jalen Brunson, because if Brunson is out, then I like Towns a little bit more. I like Towns anyway, as long as Evan Mobley is out, because Jared Allen won't be able to keep up with him on the perimeter. So I think Towns is somebody else, but we really, and he's sub 9K on DraftKings, we really love Towns, though, when Brunson is out. To me, the floor goes up for Towns even more. So we'll have to see what the deal is with that. San Antonio, I just mentioned, both of these teams over their last 10 games, they've been playing at a very quick pace, and I feel like people don't want to necessarily attack them because they think both teams are competitive. Well, I'll say this, when it comes to this team, these two teams actually just met up, and we saw the Spurs, and we've seen the Spurs be able to take full advantage of the Thunder. They're going to be playing again here against each other. But what I like about this game is the pace. And what I also like about this game is that the Spurs have been able to beat OKC. So it won't be a blowout unless they completely take a dump. I don't anticipate that happening, though. Now they've been bringing Victor Wembanyama in on and off the bench. That's fine, too. Because to me, with Victor Wembanyama even slow playing him back in, although now we have a fully healthy front court for OKC. So we'll have to see how those guys are utilized in that matchup. But let's not forget that the Spurs, this isn't any kind of fluke. They're a solid defensive team with a great rating when Wemby is in. Looking at some of the other guys that we can look at, if AJ Mitchell is out, then we can look at some of the backups here. He's questionable going into that one. Chet Holmgren, also questionable, so we'll have to see. He ended up leaving the game last night. So if he's out, then I'll look at Isaiah Hartenstein just a little bit, who's sub 6K. But remember, he's going to be seeing a lot of Wemby. So with him seeing a lot of Wemby, it's going to make it hard for him to score. So we're really reliant, which he had 12 against them last night. We're really reliant on those rebounds. He had 9 previous games. That's the other thing about these two teams. They have the depth. They've met up like this will be their third meeting in the last 10, 14 days. Too much. Let's spread it out just a little bit more. But that's part of it right there. That's part of the tournament. So looking further at this slate, now we move on to Dallas Golden State. And with this, I'm looking at the bigs. If there's anyone that we're going to be looking to potentially pay up for, Anthony Davis is there. I always get very afraid because if there's any player that I should be able to trust, but then I put into a core and he gets freaking hurt, then for me, that's Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis going up against the Warriors, we're going to also have to see if anything comes of the Draymond Green leaving the bench, because you take him out of the post, you take Horford out of the post, Horford's questionable, then Anthony Davis is going to be open season for him. So that's where we can look to trust. But let's say Draymond Green plays, then I immediately start to look at Steph Curry's been having a very nice stretch here in 4 of his last 5 games. We've seen that scoring up, we've seen the rebounding up, and the assists. And I feel like that's something that we can kind of read into here. On the other side, really what I look for is when it comes to this Mavs team, I'm looking for value beyond Anthony Davis. I'm looking at a guy like, let's say, Naji Marshall, who doesn't have a high ceiling. But again, we're looking in a 5-game slate. We're looking at a player who's sub 6K that gets the minutes, should play about 30. And here's the thing with the Warriors. While they've got good defensive patches, at the same time for them, they can be beaten, especially in the post. And I feel like that's where we could see a lot of Naji Marshall, especially too. And a lot of this comes down to PJ Washington's health. If PJ Washington, who almost played and then didn't, we should see him play. But I like Marshall anyway. I love Naji Marshall even more if PJ Washington ends up sitting here. Other players, Podziemski for Golden State. All of a sudden, we're seeing this guy produce. And he's another one at 5,200 that he's going to get the minutes. He's going to get the points. We know he's going to be able to run the floor a little bit. Let's see with Draymond Green and the whole situation there too, because he picks up some of that usage if for some reason he's out. I feel like we would have heard something by now. It seems like they are just trying to throw water on it like, oh, players and coaches get into arguments all the time. Well, does a player really leave the court? When you leave the court in sports, that to me is one of the ultimate signs of disrespect. When you leave your team mid-battle, just think for those out there that are maybe you were in the Army, maybe you served, you were in service, and thank you for your service, especially around the holiday season and everything. But imagine leaving your post, you and one of your comrades, one of your troops that you're friends with there in your platoon, you guys get into a little bit of an argument. You're going to leave them behind. And I know that it's a little bit of a weird analogy, but that's what sports is. It's a very big time team camaraderie. And nobody, not Michael Jordan, not LeBron James, not Draymond Green certainly, have earned the right to be able to walk out on their team. You're not walking out on your coach. You're walking out on your entire team when you do something like that. And everybody with the Warriors organization is frustrated. They get it. But you don't walk out on your team mid-game. That's some soft stuff for a guy who's one of the hardest players in the league. And when I saw that, it just made me shake my head because I like Draymond Green. Do I think that he's taken a few nut shots and liberties on other players? Yes, I do. But that I don't like. I don't like when you just walk out on your team like that. A couple of more games here. Houston, LA. This is the game I'm being careful with because this game is going to operate at a slower pace. Houston has their size. They're not dealing with the injuries anymore. The one thing that we're all waiting on is Luka Doncic, because if Luka Doncic is out, it makes me more excited in this matchup about Austin Reeves. And I'll say this too, with LeBron James being 9,300, he has had himself a very good stretch. But at the same time, in this kind of slow-paced environment, I'm probably fading LeBron at this point, because if I'm Houston and you have no Luka Doncic, I'm having Jabari Smith and Alperen Şengün on you the entire time. I'm having Steven Adams start to work his way up so you can't even get a step in the lane. So that's where I worry about the Lakers a little bit more. Houston, I'm a little bit more open with, because I feel like they cause so many matchup nightmares. Like Jabari Smith has been pretty decent. I'll probably look at him, but not going to really build around him. Alperen Şengün, DeAndre Ayton has been a very fine center, so I might not attack them there. But in GPPs, Şengün has interest because he does spend a lot of time running the floor. And if Luka Doncic is out, I am more open to an Amen Thompson type. So I'll see. I'll probably pick some values from there. The Lakers, I haven't been relying on too much. They've been all over the place. I've written up LeBron James a few times. When Luka Doncic is in, it's pretty much the Luka LeBron show with a little bit of Austin Reeves. Ayton at that point, rebounds only. So we're all in wait and see mode to see if Luka Doncic plays. This matchup, though, this is the one that I want a piece of. And that's because Minnesota is a little bit deceiving. They don't play great defense. And while Denver's very slow and the game environment's going to be very unfriendly, at the same time, I'm going to be looking at some of these Timberwolves. I'm going to be looking at Rudy Gobert. I'm going to be looking at Naz Reid. Both of these guys are prime, ready to go, especially for both of them if Jaden McDaniels is out, gives them a little bit of a bump when it comes to their role and their usage. I like that very much. And then on the Denver side, someone who I can, because I haven't decided on who's going to be in my core four just yet. It's probably going to be a stars and scrubs build, but Christian Brown has been out for Denver, and somebody that I've been looking at who helped the Denver Nuggets win the NBA championship a few years ago, and he scored in double figures in each of his last 4 games. He's been rebounding really well, 5+ in each of his last 3, but something else to consider, he's also been getting the minutes, and that's Bruce Brown. So with Bruce Brown, that's somebody that I feel, because of the minutes are there, the shots are there, he flirts with double figures, should take 8 to 10. But most importantly, he's 4,100. And if you're 4,100, I'm going to like that value very much. It's like going to the dollar store right there. So with that, with him being as cheap as he is, and I'm very comfortable with his role. Plus, Minnesota's actually had some defensive issues. Bruce Brown, don't be surprised when you go to fantasyguru.com. And that's, of course, once you sign up for the MVP plan, so you get all access to NBA, among our other sports outside of football, baseball. You're going to likely see Bruce Brown as a balanced play in my core 4 because he's super cheap and it allows us to get a stud in there. One stud, I'll give you guys one stud since it's the holidays that I'm looking at. I mean, I can easily tell you, Nikola Jokic. We'll say this for Minnesota because it's on my mind. Rudy Gobert has been playing better, so that's someone, again, look at. Really, when it comes to what stud am I going to prioritize at this point, it's either going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or it's going to be Anthony Davis. And with Anthony Davis, he's not allowed to get hurt when I put him in core 4s on holidays. That's actually a rule. It's a fact. You could look it up in the Elias Sports Bureau, anything like that. When I put Anthony Davis in a core 4 during the holidays, he is not allowed to get hurt. Somebody else who, hey, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not hate on Twitter. I'm telling you why. Because Richie Maletto, the fantasy Bosco, is coming to town. He'll see you when you're tweeting. He'll know when you're hating. He'll know when you've been bad or good, and he'll come after your ass, so be good, for goodness sake. Happy holidays, Rich. What's going on, man?
Well done, Fensty. Well done, man. That was some bars there you're throwing down. I'm impressed.
Hey, man, it's not my hair that gets me through my life. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, not mine either. I'm struggling a little bit, so I apologize. I will try to speak clearly, but I'm obviously a little under the weather here and having a hard time speaking. So we'll do our best. I love the basketball stuff, though, man.
Yeah, man. No, it's just, and I know a lot of people want football, and I know that there are a lot of people that are probably pissed off that I talk basketball. But dude, at some point, and I know people don't like to hear this, football, and I know football never ends from a content standpoint at Fantasy Guru, but football does come to an end, and we have a lot of heat at fantasyguru.com with our other sports. And I feel like with this stream, because our model at Fantasy Guru, you got to pay for our content. There's very few things that come out that you could get for free. This is one of those things right here. Jeff Manns' One Man's Opinion podcast, which is already out, new episode each week, that you get for free too. Armando Marsal's Mind of Marsal, you get that for free. But then, Rich, with our content, it's behind the paywall. And that's where, for not only football, but for racing, which you help head up at fantasyguru.com, that's part of that MVP package.
Well, and the Racing Guru Thunder Hour is available for free on YouTube.
Nice. That's perfect right there. And that's you, of course, that's Shawnee Angle and everything, Mark Hogan. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Everybody is so focused on football, but this package that we have at fantasyguru.com, it gets you access to everything not football and baseball. And this is where it's our time to really flex our muscles and show what we can do. And that's why every Wednesday, soon enough, it's going to be basketball. But even during the playoffs, too, with our all-in package for football, $50 going on, we're still going to be hanging out in the playoffs, my man. And now you can tell me what to make of your Cleveland Browns rushing attack at this point with no more Quinshon Judkins.
It's a big unknown because I don't know that Dylan Sampson's going to play. Let's just assume, okay? Let's just assume Dylan Sampson is going to be active. Then I would say it's close to a 1-for-1 as far as volume goes. As far as production goes, it's a different story. Now, Judkins has been struggling. The Browns in general have been struggling with the running game for the last, I would say, half the games for the last month to 6 weeks. It's flashed and looked good, and then it's looked terrible. It's going to be much of the same with Dylan Sampson. The trick bag here, I don't know that we'll get clarity on Dylan Sampson being active until Saturday or Sunday. So if, you don't have other options for Sunday and we've got 3 games tomorrow, you may just not be able to wait on Dylan Sampson. But if he's available on the waiver wire, Sampson, and you have a spot or you got someone to drop, grab Sampson. And yeah, I think you have a potential high volume running back. What I was reading yesterday, it's probably 50-50 right now, if not maybe less than 50-50, in which case you're looking at Travion Williams. I'm not chasing that action. I think you're going to see something like a split like we saw in New Orleans with Hall and Estime, where you really don't want to use either. That's what I would expect to happen if there is no Sampson. If there is Sampson, I expect him to get probably 70% of the running back touches.
Rich Maletto, again, writes for us at fantasyguru.com, racing and also football streamers article, buy, sell, cut articles too. And my favorite part about reading Rich's content is the fact that you see him kind of thinking it through as he's writing. I can't go a whole week without writing AJ Barner here, but it's funny you write that, Rich, because you've got panic in the streets because we got the news earlier today. Brock Bowers, his season is over at this point. So now that's a double-digit producing tight end that's now off the books. You also, because there are leagues, of course, where waivers go Wednesday into Thursday that are still riding with waivers. Some others, though, that go Tuesday into Wednesday. You've got George Kittle, who's dealing with a sprained ankle. You've got
it doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. Now, yes, Fensty, but it's not a high ankle sprain. Dude, a high ankle sprain is like 3 to 6 weeks. A low ankle sprain is still more than a week, most likely. There's a lot of different therapies you could do, but it's the swelling. That's half the battle right there. So that takes a little bit. Ice and elevation can take a while.
And they even said this is more mid-level. So we are talking about it being a little bit higher than normal. So not only are we talking about the swelling, the pain and inability to cut. That, you could see that. You could see that when Cutter was working on the sideline. He was not comfortable cutting. That's not going to change in a week. So let's talk about these for a quick minute here. Pivot to Mayers. If you have Bowers, just pivot to Mayer. Do I have the same expectation? No, but I expect fairly decent volume. We've seen that from Mayer earlier this year. If you don't go chasing some of these guys. I took a question in Discord. It's like, well, the rankings say this, but your streaming article had them here. Keep in mind, my streaming article's targeting players that are not on rosters. They're not on rosters because people don't want them, right? They're not really the gem. They aren't the gold, what is it? Foie gras, right? They're not the primo stuff that everybody wants. They're the leftovers. And what I'm telling you is, here are some leftovers that won't get you zeros. That's the gist of the article is how many times I put in there. Barner's not going to get you a 0. Parkinson's not going to get you a 0. That's what we're looking to avoid, right? So this is not high value, high target plays. This is, I might be able to get by with this because I'm in a pickle. That's what this is. So I expect guys that you have to be ranked above these players. And please use the rankings. I just went through Jeff's flex rankings. There's not a lot I disagree with. So you can ask for my leans, but I'm going to tell you, start there and then have a discussion if you're torn on something. But we can't control your feelings and emotions. If you got Kittle, try Tongs. It's not going to be the same ceiling, but he won't get you a 0, and you have a 50-50 shot at a touchdown. Tongs filled in for Kittle a little bit earlier this year.
Right. It's true. And you bring up a good point here. And we get a lot of questions in Discord, and we have people manning our Discord channels and everything. But read the content a little bit too, and read the rankings. Like, forget reading the content. That's too much for everybody. I'm learning that in basketball. Fensty, who do you like tonight? Well, I have an entire article that I just spent 4.5 hours on, and I'm not just saying that to chart how much work I'm doing. I spend a lot of time on and off, like 4 hours throughout the day. It's a process. Trimming like a Christmas tree, decorating, trying to figure out putting all the combos in there. Read the article, or at least read the article for the plays. But when it comes to rankings, that's even easier to read. And Jeff Mans put in our Discord, he had those rankings out even earlier, getting you ready, a jumpstart for the holidays and everything like that. And then you're asking our analysts, Rich, Ray Flowers, I see it in Discord, you're asking these basic wide receiver versus wide receiver questions where you can cut off that entire waiting time by checking Jeff's rankings. And yes, Jeff doesn't just put out the rankings and go, well, see you later. He updates those rankings leading up to the big start on Sunday. And Rich, I know that's been an area where you've been trying to nicely tell everybody, hey, look at the rankings and you're good, because why would we go? Jeff Mans is our captain. Jeff Mans, he is the rankings guy, essentially. Why would we go against Jeff and lack consistency?
That is you hit the nail on the head. And I made that comment to someone and they weren't very pleased about it. And I took it a step further because they go, what's the point? Why can't we? I thought the point was we're going to have access to you. Can we ask you questions? Well, first of all, getting 690 questions in Discord a week, which is average for each of us. You can go in Discord, you can put in a name, you can do a search by date and search for the week. It's about 600 to 900 of us for football. At 2 to 3 minutes a question, which is on the low side of the average, you're talking 24 to 35 hours in Discord alone. That's right. Discord. That's not including us doing our research, writing the articles, and so on. And I got a little snippy with the guy because I said, what is the point of me writing my start-sit article that I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday night when I had work the next day when you guys won't even read it? And then you get mad at me to come in and I'm upset because I feel like I have to retype what I already put in the article, or I'm looking at Jeff's rankings when you all could do that yourselves. This is going to come off wrong, and I apologize. We are not your Google assistants. We're not. You want to play this game, take some ownership of it, and do some of the work. Right. Our goal is to give you the insight on snaps, injuries, likelihood of plays, potential matchups, all the stuff in the weeds that we never got back when we first started playing. We would have killed just to have snap share. If you could have told me I could go someplace and find out who actually played in the game and how many snaps, that would have been awesome for us the way we kept in because we used to have backup plans because we didn't know if the guy played or not. If they didn't show up in the box score and you didn't physically watch the game, how do you know if the dude played? We knew they were questionable. There wasn't this inactive list you could go check. So I'm sorry. I just wish I'm not playing the game for you. I'm here to help offer you. We are here to help offer you insight
Right.
to give you more data to use. You play the game. Make
Right.
the decisions, play the game. If you want final decision maker and you're having us set 30 to 40% of your lineup, I call that being a co-manager. I charge $500 an hour to co-manage a minimum of 1 hour.
Right. And that's why the rankings exist. They're a baseline. And look, I get it because muscle memory is key. We didn't always have flex rankings at fantasyguru.com.
No, we didn't.
But now we do. And Jeff does a great job because, he doesn't have to, but he does the flex rankings because, yes, you get those questions, the running backs versus wide receivers, and you need a point of difference. That should be it right there. And yes,
Agreed.
if all of a sudden something crazy breaks, like let's just say we got the Roma Dunze news from like a couple weeks ago. Let's say we got that, an hour before we did. Okay, well, that changes everything. Jeff's on air on SiriusXM that point, so the rankings, they might get shifted, but that's when you go in and be like, hey, this just happened. But before you even do that, go to see if any of the other subscribers may have asked that question, because you're probably getting about 50 of those questions from paranoid players. And that's why I think we all have New Year's resolutions in 2026. Rich, I don't know if you have one, but one of my New Year's resolutions, and this was a New Year's resolution in 2025, and I failed. I want to lose a massive amount of weight, and I want to put definition on my arm so that when I eventually reappear on these streams with jerseys and sleeveless shirts and my fantasy guru sleeveless jersey that I'm going to create out of nothing, then I want to be able to see the muscles. That's my New Year's resolution. And I think before we get to yours, Rich, I think a lot of people out there that especially subscribe because you pay for it. You pay for these articles. Read them or at least skim them. Do something while you're on the can, while you're making food. If you have a baby it takes about 5 to 7 minutes to warm up a bottle. I know from experience during that 5 to 7 minutes, I go through Jeff Banz's cash game breakdown. I do that every single week. I do it, and I'm all plugged in. Rich is all plugged in. We all do it. To get better at this, you need to read. You need to understand what you're doing so you can learn how to do it yourself. Like last night, I'm in the Discord. I put my bets in there, and everything's great. Then it's in the 9 o'clock hour. Well, Fensty, why didn't you go back to this bet? Go back to that bet. Have the confidence from reading how I've come up with my bets, especially those rebounding bets, and learn. That's the best thing, Rich, when I hear from a subscriber that, hey, Fensty, look, you didn't put this bet in there, but I did because I learned how to research rebounding props. Dude,
great. That's what we want.
Dude, that's as good of a feeling and gratifying of a feeling to me as an analyst as it would be if I won a fantasy championship. What's your resolution?
I agree. Well, before we get to that, I will say this. Spot on for scrolling. There's a search tool in Discord. You can put a player name. You can put one of our names. You can put all sorts of stuff in search. I highly recommend it because to your point, Kobe Parkinson questions. We took almost 200 Kobe Parkinson questions last week. Okay? That's how ridiculous it was because I was getting bombarded. Armando was getting bombarded. Tyler, Russ, Ray, everybody was getting bombarded. And we had basically the same stance. Now, let's say this. One, you're playing with karma when you keep repeating the questions. When you keep coming out and asking about the same guy, it's like our bets. You and I have talked about this. When everybody's on something, I want to do something else. Everybody was pushing Kobe Parkinson. It got to the point I wanted to say, that's it. I'm not playing Kobe Parkinson over anybody because too many of you are playing him, and you could be just searching and getting a vibe. Instead, you're having us repeat it. You're making that situation even worse. You can call me superstitious, whatever. I don't care, but I've seen it. And what happened? Parkinson had 0 through the first half. And I went on Twitter, and I was looking at all the L's because it was everybody and their brother was pushing him. We didn't necessarily push Parkinson at Guru. We had him listed appropriately, in my opinion, but I saw tons of places pushing him. That led to people coming into our Discord asking questions, completely ruined the vibe that whole night, for the record. Over a tight end. Right. Tight ends are fluky as F. Like, we are arguing and splitting hairs over, I'm going to get 5 points. Am I going to get 9 points? If those 4 points make or break your game, I'm sorry, you were doomed to lose anyway. It shouldn't come down to that. It should. There's going to be close matchups. I get it, but we're talking tight ends. Talking about practice, not even a game. practice. You know, like that's where my thought process was.
Not the game that I die for. We're talking about practice, man. I love that.
Practice.
Oh, I love that. I love that Allen Iverson practice rant just as much as I love the Mike Gundy. I'm a man. I'm 40. Come at me.
Come at me. That's one of my favorite things. When I turned 40, I had to put that out there. That's one of my favorite press conferences of all
time. Sometimes I'll like react to them when I like have a play that I want to write and really push, and then I kind of back off from my own paranoia, too much extra research, and I go, we are what they thought they were, but we let them off the hook.
Off the hook. Dennis Green, baby. That one, and you know, there's two other ones. The Jim Mora playoffs. We can't even win a game. You're talking playoffs.
We haven't even won a game.
And the Mike Singletary can't do it, won't do it.
I want winners. I want people that want to win. Can't do it.
Can't do it, won't do it. And some of those are some of the best.
One of my other favorites, Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. Hello, you play to win the game.
Yeah, there's some good ones in there.
As
far as my resolution, I'm just trying to be less of a dick. I'll be honest.
Okay, you know, that shouldn't be that hard.
You say that, but then I tell myself I'm going to quit flipping the bird to everybody on my way to work, and I go, well, I only did it 3 times this week, right? So that's a start.
Sometimes when I see some of your responses on Twitter, and don't follow Rich on Twitter at Fantasy Bosco, by the way, don't do it. But when I see some of your responses and they're like nice, I'll do the Vern Lundquist. Oh, there he goes with the putter throw. Oh, a restrained Happy Gilmore.
You can tell I'm conflicted. I try. And then there's other times it's like, nah.
Well, yeah, when you say eat a hot dog, let's just say, then then I know that that's it. It's over at this point. When my phone battery is half drained because of responses from you and Jeff, and then you get the Ray jump in very quickly, and then he jumps out just like that. But he gives his little shot and then runs away like Carmelo Anthony did in the fight years ago with Denver. But we all just want to make sure that we're on the up and up. We're addressing everybody's needs at fantasyguru.com. And somebody who's been addressing a lot of fantasy needs, because I keep getting questions about him. And this is where we can go to the rankings and everything. But Rich, often these times bring up paranoia. Like I got asked by one of my friends, he has Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott, and he's wondering if Dak Prescott's going to even play the full game tomorrow too. There's a lot of paranoia. I see Jay Main in our chat right here asking about Jacoby Brissett, who we've talked about a bunch too, versus Trevor Lawrence. And, you know, it's with how well Lawrence has been playing, but we know Brissett has that arm, and he's been good too.
Honestly, I don't think you can go wrong. I don't think it's going to matter which one you go with of these two. I have a hard time sitting Brissett because he's been nothing but a QB1, but he has been a QB1 every single week, including when he faced the Texans. So I don't know what more you want from a floor stability standpoint.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence, he's got a higher ceiling. He also has a lower floor. So you will likely score more if Trevor has a good game, QB 6, 7, 8, while Brissett's like 10, 11, right? Something like that. Or Trevor Lawrence struggles a little bit, and it's more like QB 14.
Right.
So, I really don't know that you can go wrong. If you want to play a safer floor, in my opinion, and safe is a misnomer, it's Brissett. But with the way Trevor Lawrence is playing right now, I got no problem using him. That's more of a ceiling play, in my opinion, if you kind of want to shoot for the stars. But I got to tell you, I'm boring, Fensty. I play for floors. I feel like I'm Brissett for 6 weeks, 8 weeks now is QB1. Like I'm playing him, hoping for my 18 to 20 points.
Exactly. And I'm with you there. And we've talked about this. That's something you and I both have in common. We are safer players. We are safer bettors. We play more floor plays than the ceiling plays. Mm-hmm. It's not always about the plus 175. Sometimes a minus 130 can still get you the bucks here. And that's really what you're debating here with Jacoby Brissett versus Trevor Lawrence, because what we saw Jacksonville do against Denver, that was a statement. That's a freaking statement right there. That starts to make me wonder if because naturally you see the Jaguars in the mix, you think one and done. They'll win a game maybe,
right,
and then they're done. But, when it comes to winning games like that on the road against a team that hadn't lost at home, and you've seen the last number of weeks because he had good matchups there, but then he does what he did against Denver, dude, that makes me start to question whether or not the Jaguars are actual contenders in the AFC.
I agree, because the Denver defense has been good. Now, I know they're a little bit beat up, but Denver they've only allowed over 24 or 28 points like 5 times this year. I mean, they've been a good defense. So to see Trevor Lawrence, who has historically struggled against tough defenses like this, and let's be honest, all of this is since the bye week. And I think that's significant, okay? We see this. We see whether it be an RJ Harvey type get more play after the bye week, or whether it be a Luther Bird and all of a sudden be a bigger staple on the field after. Once teams get to bye weeks, the picture it's a lot clearer. Teams, people talk about halftime adjustments. It's bye week adjustments. Right. Teams make a lot of adjustments when they get to the bye week. And I don't know if it's just because of that time off that they can just work and practice the whole week and don't worry about having game film. I don't know. But this is a different Jaguars offense since the bye week. And I'm buying in. And they clearly feel like Myers was a missing piece because they gave him an extended contract. And look, Brian Thomas has looked not useless since Myers has been there, quite frankly. And I got to tell you, this is probably an indictment on Travis Hunter.
Yeah. You wonder when they're fully healthy again next season. You wonder how they had a lot of options to begin with. And, they didn't have Strange for the first part there. And now they've got a boatload of options, especially with Jacoby Myers, that Trevor Lawrence has to throw to here. Because, when you think back to the fantasy season, there are a few names out there. Justin Jefferson, you could definitely put up there. But Brian Thomas might be considering he was being drafted around that 12-13 area. So you're looking at a first-round pick, arguably, in 12-team leagues, definitely in 14-teamers. I think he might be the biggest because I don't count injured guys. If you've missed a good chunk of the season, like Lamar Jackson when even he was hurt, because he's been a disappointment, but he was hurt a little bit, I give a little grace there. But Brian Thomas, to me, has been that most disappointing fantasy player based on where we drafted him.
And you know who warned us, by the way? There was somebody on staff that kept saying he's not a first-round pick. I'm avoiding him.
Is it Russell Clay, the Jaguars guy?
No, it was Jeff.
Wow. Yeah, you had to
say Jeff kept saying, I don't see him. And maybe I'm getting it wrong. Jeff, if you see this and I'm getting it wrong, you can yell at me and go on that. But I swear it was you.
Because if he treats you to eat a hot dog, you know that you've gone, that you misquoted him.
Well, and the reason I know this is, or feel like I know this, I took Thomas in our staff mock draft, right? And I thought it was kind of a steal, because I got him later in that round. And I saw or heard something from Jeff. I was like, ooh, maybe this isn't such a hot pick, And boy, has he been a major letdown. And, people forget that all of Thomas's production last year came with Mac Jones.
Right.
And there's something else that's interesting, right? Because Mac Jones did set the world on fire in San Francisco, but he had less weapons than Purdy had, right? Because Kittle wasn't around at that time. They both have not had Ayuk. Jennings missed a bunch of time when Mac was under center, all of that. And Mac was starting to doing decent. Mac played well for the Jags last year. The Jaguars were competitive. So I don't know. Kansas City, maybe, you guys could use a body. Mac Jones, I think, is a starting NFL quarterback. Maybe
Dude, I hate to say it. I know that the Jets are going to try to build in the draft, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
I've listened to shows where it's been brought up. What about him with the Jets until they figure things out? I'm not saying I'm doing cartwheels, but I wouldn't mind that.
I've come to the realization that coaching and scheme are as much impactful for quarterbacks as anything. Sam Darnold.
Jeff Mans used to say, and I didn't understand it when he would first say this was like 10, 12 years ago. He'd say that Tom Brady was a product of the system. And I'd be like, well, it's Brady. He wasn't saying Brady wasn't great. But the reason why he's the top guy, maybe not. Would he have been without Belichick? Who knows? But the coaching and everything around him, the line, the protection. everything.
I think Charlie Weiss should get credit for Tom Brady.
Yes.
If you go back to early Tom Brady career, Charlie Weiss was there, and you look what Charlie Weiss has done with other quarterbacks and offenses. I think Charlie Weiss is underappreciated for what he did for that Patriots team and Tom Brady. I mean, if you really look at when the change took place for Brady, we're like that switch. You can actually go to say Pro Football Reference and look at his career logs. You can see where that switch almost got hit, and it coincides with Charlie Weiss as the offensive coordinator. So, I look at Sam Darnold. I didn't think he was going to flourish in Seattle. He's been decent. Is he as good as he was with Minnesota? Debatable, but not bad. Baker, comes to mind. Mac Jones. I think Davis Mills, quite frankly, has played better than C.J. Stroud this year, as another example. I think Stroud has struggled. And Davis Mills, look, the Texans are going to make the playoffs, and Jeff said this on air, and I thought he was spot on at the time. Mills brought him back in that fourth quarter comeback win. That changed the whole trajectory of the season. Mad props to Davis Mills, who, by the way, was a highly recruited quarterback.
Right.
Blue chip type guy, just got a bunch of injuries and never really got a lot of time to play. There's some teams that really need backup quarterbacks that's so bad, and there's some teams that have some starting backup quarterbacks.
Right. No, it's true. And speaking of backup options here, Rich, let's talk about streamers for those that might be dealing with an injured quarterback and they need a quarterback. I mean, we know that Jordan Love is dealing with the concussion. Lamar Jackson's always dealing with something, but what about anybody out there that you consider, even as daunting as it is championship week to have to stream, which I had to do last year too, because Jalen Hurts had gotten hurt. And then I had picked up Anthony Richardson. He got hurt. So I was really down to the bottom of the barrel. Who are a few quarterbacks at this point that you consider streaming championship week here? I think you're on mute, Rich.
I apologize. I didn't want to cough into the...
No. Dude, I appreciate that. Totally understand.
I didn't want to cough because I'm definitely not well. The wife...
Yeah, I hear you, man. I was bad last week too, dude. It's that time of the year.
The wife looked at me and said, "You sound like crap, so I got you cold medicine and flu medicine."
Oh, that's nice of her.
She's always looking out like that. She's good like that.
That's good.
Look, there's not a lot of options at quarterback. Tyler Shough is not a bad option. He's good for that 15 to 18 to 20 points, right? He doesn't always rush, but if he gets a little rushing involved, you might be north of 20 points. He's definitely a body I would use. He's one of the few. You could turn to Phillip Rivers. It doesn't look pretty with him out there, but he has the weapons. He is no dummy. He can throw to Taylor, to Warren, to Pierce, to Pittman. He doesn't have to do much other than be a point guard. He's probably good for 15 to 17 points as well. Outside of that, I am not chasing these third-string quarterbacks that are playing tomorrow. Nope. 50% of the quarterbacks starting tomorrow are third stringers or worse. I don't want that action. I'm not necessarily running.
Oladokin.
Yeah, I can't even pronounce them. I can't even pronounce two of them.
Rosmer and Oladokin, yeah.
Well, and who's Josh Johnson's behind.
And Josh Johnson, yes.
It's Josh Johnson I like. You could, I didn't list Josh Johnson. You could use him. We have in the past. He has weapons. He will run a little bit, but he would definitely be like my last ditch resort. I'm not touching anybody else as far as Brosmer goes or the Chiefs guy.
Well, you mentioned Josh Johnson because I saw this question coming in here in our chat here, and immediately I looked at this and I thought, you're going Sutton and Pitts and putting it away. But then you just mentioned Josh Johnson, so I figured I'd bring it to your attention. That's still my answer, Sutton and Kyle Pitts. It's weird that we're able to rely on Kyle Pitts, but over the last month, he's actually been one of the most reliable tight ends in fantasy football. Even with Drake London back, I still feel like Kirky's going to be throwing to him.
I don't disagree with that logic. That said, I really struggle using a tight end over a receiver. I would go Terry and Sutton here personally.
And hope that Josh Johnson comes through.
He's going to throw the ball. Who's he going to throw it to?
Right. They don't.
It's not like Josh Johnson is only going to throw 12 times.
You know, I wonder if they, and I'm not saying, right, so not 12 times, but let me ask you this. Do you think, because we've started to see that they actually, Washington, have a ground attack too. Like kind of like Big Bill was in like was doing the whole like 6 carries for BS type of deal. Big Bill's been good, but Chris Rodriguez has also been pretty decent too. I wonder if Washington tries to establish the run a little bit more tomorrow, because that's something I'm thinking of, and definitely looking at the DFS slate, the 3-gamer there. Chris Rodriguez at least is going to be in one of my lineups.
The problem is if anything, Dallas is good against the run, and there's still sieves against the pass.
Yeah.
So for me, there's two things that play for me in this. 3, really. I'm playing my guys. That's just how I am. That's how I roll. I don't worry about matchups. I don't. I know that's a boring way to play it, but that's how I roll. So it's tough for me to sit the guys that I have leaned on, and Terry has been that guy for the last couple of weeks. And that was when we drafted and what we wanted him to be.
Right.
2, Dallas has not stopped. I remember us talking about J.J. McCarthy on the coaching live stream, and I said, I'm using him. And Tyler's like, I couldn't do it. I said, I get it. I said, but Dallas has not been good against the pass. I have faith. I felt like the Vikings line was blocking better. I had some faith in McCarthy. And guess what? McCarthy did just fine with the receiving options there against Dallas. So I'm going to go. I can't. If you want to play Pitts, I will not stop anybody that wants to play Pitts. I get it. I have a couple of rules. I play quarterbacks at the super flex. I don't care how bad they are, because a bad quarterback day is still better than an average running back or receiver day. And I do not play tight ends at my flex positions unless I'm down into my receivers 4-5 territory. Once I'm into receiver 4-5 territory, then tight ends are on the same ground for me. Outside of that, I want running backs and receivers at my flex spots.
Rich, one more question for you, as I always ask you. Who are a few defenses that you'd consider streaming?
The defenses this week were brutal. And I took a question because they're not ranked very high. But I do think the Giants at the Raiders is reasonable. It sounds crazy, but give me the Bengals against the Cardinals. And if they're out there, go get Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense has been pretty stellar throughout the season, especially when Devin Lloyd plays. So I've got no problem.
You said it on this show weeks ago that pick them up and ride them out the rest of the way. And I did that in one of my leagues, and it helped.
Did you?
Dude, yeah, dude. And it made sense. They had 2 weeks in a row. You had started to see them play better defensively. They had 2 weeks in a row of double figures. And you said, you know what? Jacksonville, while they're out there, you can grab them and probably ride them the rest of the way. I did that in one of my leagues. Now, I'm not in the finals in that league, but still, that's awesome to be able to, because I don't prioritize defense. No one should. So to not have to even think about that post-bye was awesome. So props to you for that.
Hey, Seattle didn't do that great this past week, but guess what? I still advanced.
Yes.
Right? They got me the 4 or 5 points. Like I tell everyone, you see, well, they didn't get me the 20. They didn't get me the 15. Go look at the other defenses. You just need 5 to 7. So I'll take their floor games. If I don't have to manage around the buys and an extra roster spot, do you know how much easier this game is?
Yes.
Like, the hardest part of this game is the roster management. That's the design of it. and I'll touch on SPF's question here. If you want to use DJ Moore, I got no problem with it. But I want to remind everybody, halfway through that game, for the people I said use DJ Moore, y'all wanted to strangle me. Because he hadn't done much until that second half. He had been very, very quiet. And if it wasn't for that long touchdown catch at the end of the game, you guys have no desire to play DJ Moore. So if you want to use DJ Moore, go ahead. But like I said, Jeff's rankings are out. I'm in line with the rankings. If you're not, that's totally cool. But if you want my opinion, that's where I fall currently. And I'd have Terry and Sutton in. That's just where I would be.
You know what? And you've kind of switched me on that. Sutton definitely a lock, but, thinking Johnson's going to have to throw a little bit more. Even if the running backs do rob a touchdown from a Terry McLaurin, he's going to have to throw. It's Dallas. They'll be able to move quickly against Dallas too. So that we can go with a ceiling play right there. And then Sutton should be able to be in line for his targets and has had the success with Bo Nix that we've seen. Rich Maletto, fantasyguru.com. Don't give him a follow on X at Fantasy Bosco. But during the holiday time, everybody gets a little nice around holiday time, but don't piss us off. I'll tell you that much. Rich, thank you so much again, man. I know you're kind of playing sick. This is like a Jordan flu game for you, but thank you for always coming on with me and talking football when you can, and for all you do for everybody at fantasyguru.com.
Hey, I appreciate it. I feel bad that I've been flaky to you, Fensty. So to the people that have been tuning in and I haven't been here, I'm the one that has left Fensty kind of struggling with that because work, my day job it's been rough. So I apologize to you, Fensty. You have been more than accommodating and polite when you should be frustrating and wanting to wring my neck. So thank you.
I don't want to piss you off. You're scary.
Oh, whatever, man. We've met in person. You're not afraid of me.
This is a bit. Rich is the nicest guy I've met. He's he's actually one of maybe 2 reasons why I'd still want to go to the Fantasy Football Expo. Maybe I'm down to maybe 2 reasons why I'd want to go. It's probably Rich Maletto and Sandro Anello. That's pretty much it.
Oh, that's a good group. I mean, that's a pretty elite company there. So.
Exactly.
But
that's why we go to Canton, Ohio. But Rich, thank you so much for joining. And for everybody out there, thank you so much. Be safe. Happy holidays. Be merry. Be happy. Spend time with friends and family. I will have a DFS NBA write-up up on the site tonight. I will be in Discord tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. And don't forget, I'll also be on the great Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, talking football and basketball, getting you ready for that slate. For Rich Maletto, I'm Justin Fensterman. We will be back. We have content up on the site for you. Jeff Man's rankings are out. His One Man's Opinion podcast is also out, so make sure you catch that. And good luck. Win those rings. That's what we're all about right here at Fantasy Guru